So today's video is basically about the most used tool in my shop. Well, you could say my favorite tool in my shop. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time whatsoever, then I know you've seen this saw right here on many multiple projects. Because let's be honest, I love this saw. And this video is inspired by this saw and my comment section. Because a lot of times in the comment section, people ask what kind of blade I'm using. And by the way, it's an Evolution blade. And I tell them real fast, do not put this blade on your saw. And that might seem a little strange for me to say that, but this saw right here, for instance, this is an abrasive chop saw. This saw has a blade on it. See what I'm saying? It has a blade on it. This abrasive chop saw has a fiber disc blade. It's just a cutoff disc or a cutoff wheel. You probably have some just like it for your angle grinder. Know what I mean? Cutoff wheel. Cutoff wheel. So this one cuts through metal with an abrasive disc. This saw cuts metal with a blade. But I get comments all the time that says, what kind of blade are you using? To which I always say, don't buy one of those blades for your saw. The reason I say that, it's not that I don't want you to have a saw. This abrasive, good gracious, that thing about bit my finger off. This abrasive chop saw runs at over 4,000 RPMs. This right here is a sliding compound miter saw. This right here is not, well, it's technically not a chop saw. It's a compound miter saw. This part right here is the miter part of it. You can turn it to make different cuts. And this part right here is the compound part of it. This is for cutting wood. And yes, I do have a piece of PVC stuck on there. Because when you're cutting, that pipe just blows wood straight up into the air. And this kind of blows it back away from me so it don't get all over my face. Know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. This saw right here runs at about 4,000 RPMs too. Most all compound miter saws run between 3,800 and 4,200 RPMs. Which means that blade is turning pretty dang fast. This metal cutting machine right here is called a cold cut saw. Cold cut saw. And I'm gonna show you why it's called a cold cut saw in a little bit. But the reason I say don't get one of these blades and stick it on your chop saw is because this saw only turns 1,550 RPM. So basically, just to take one of these metal cutting blades and stick them on your saw is not safe at all. I mean, it's turning so fast that it could actually break one of these teeth off and send it into your forehead. I'm just saying. This abrasive chop saw right here runs between 3,500 and 4,000 RPMs. Look, I can't know everything. They fast, okay? They fast. And while we're on the subject of blades, you can get all different kinds of blades for these saws. See this blade right here? It says steel, aluminum, wood, and plastic. This blade is kind of a universal blade that's made to cut anything. But you also see right here that the maximum for this blade is 1,600 RPMs. And this saw turns 1,550 RPMs if I'm not mistaken. So putting it on one of these two saws could be catastrophic. You know what I'm saying? And while I'm on the subject of the blades, they also make blades just for steel. They also make blades for aluminum or aluminium or however you guys across the pond say it.
Aluminum. Make sure you wrap that up with aluminum. Aluminum.
Boring.
So there's different kinds of blades, but you just have to respect the RPM ratings on those blades. Now, as you can see on this cutoff wheel is rated for 5,400 max RPM. And another reason that I really like them and proof that they're good blades is you see that they're made in Japan. And we all know that the Japanese have the best steel. Okay, so I made a list of 5 things that could... Hold on a minute. You mind keeping it down? I'm trying to film a video over here. Stupid chickens. I made a list why this cold cut saw is better than this abrasive saw. And we're going to test the theories of this list and see which one's better. Reason number 1, speed. The cold cut saw is much faster than this abrasive saw. And to prove it, we're going to run a test. We're not just going to use the same type of steel on this test. We're going to use the same piece of steel. That way, neither saw has an advantage. First, we'll cut this with the cold cut saw. Now we'll cut the same piece of steel with our abrasive saw. As you can see, the cold cut saw was faster. Let's put them side by side so you can see really how much faster. Reason number 2. So the second thing on our list that makes the cold cut saw better than the abrasive saw is that it's a cold cut. What I mean by that is when you have this cold cut blade, it's actually called cold cut for a reason. It cuts through so fast that it doesn't generate a lot of heat, to where the abrasive saw generates tons of heat and friction while it's cutting. And when you're done cutting it, you can touch it without getting hurt. I mean, it may be a little warm, but it's not going to burn you. But the abrasive saw, I can't say that about that. When the abrasive saw is through cutting, not only does it leave a lot of burrs, it's hot. Yeah, watch this. See that? That crap's hot. Cool your jets. So you may not want to touch it after it comes out of that abrasive saw if you want to keep the skin on your fingers. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Number 3. Now the next reason why the cold cut saw is better than the abrasive saw is deburr. When you use the cold cut saw, you're not going to have to deburr nearly as much as when you use an abrasive saw. This cut right here came from our cold cut saw. You see how clean it is? It don't need any deburring, and I hadn't touched it. So as far as cut condition and how clean it is, it does a really good job. This is the piece of metal that was cut using the abrasive saw. I know you can see that big old burr on there. You see it? That big old burr? It ain't really a big deal to grind that off. But with the cold cut saw, you don't have to grind anything. That's the point. This stuff is pretty dang smooth. And if you look at it, even the other side of the cut leaves burrs. See what I'm saying? This thing needs to be ground down. Number 4. Reason number 4. Yeah. Now, the next reason this cold cut saw is better is safety. You can run into some really serious safety issues with an abrasive saw. I'm probably gonna have people hollering in the comment section I'm crazy, but y'all seen that abrasive saw next to that cold cut saw, and that abrasive saw could catch your shop on fire if you ain't careful. I'm telling you.
A few moments later.
It also makes a bigger mess, in my opinion. The mess that comes off the abrasive is the metal, and this is disc wearing down. I mean, the dust from this disc creates a lot of mess too. And it gets on everything. I'm not gonna pretend that this cold cut saw don't make a mess, because it does. But it leaves metal chips, and it seems like they're a lot easier to sweep up. But if you wear Crocs like me, these little metal chips can get in your Crocs and cause you some trouble. But overall, I think it's easier to clean up the cold cut saw than the abrasive saw, because that's all dirty and dusty. And that's just my opinion, not including catching yourself on fire. Don't forget. Don't forget. By the way, make sure you wear safety glasses if you're going to use either one of these. I'm just saying, safety, people, safety. Reason number 5. Now, number 5 has got to be the best reason to get a cold cut saw over an abrasive saw, because it's one of my pet peeves, and that's saving money. And some of you's probably scratching your head right now. Abrasive saw like this is about $150, and the price just goes upward for decent abrasive saws. I'm just saying. Now, cold cut saws can get high as well. This cold cut saw, 5 years ago, I've been using this thing 5 years. 5 years ago, I bought this cold cut saw for $199. I checked, and a saw like this is about $260, I think. Which is not bad, because this saw comes with a blade on it, and these blades aren't cheap either. This $150 abrasive saw did not come with any blade on it. I had to buy this. So you can look at it and say, well, that's $100 more from this to this. But not only are you going to get better speed, better safety, a cold cut, you know, all them 5 reasons. But this is my experience with the cold cut saw. I've had this blade on this cold cut saw for at least 3 years, and it still cuts great, as you can see from this video. And the abrasive saws don't come with any blade. You have to buy these discs. And yes, these discs are cheaper than the blade on a cold cut saw. But these abrasive discs are like $10 and up. Actually, I think this one was $9 and something. It was right at $10. But really, in 3 years' time, how many of these are you going to use? My guess would probably be 5 to 10 easily. So you're talking about $50 to $100 worth of blades. When this cold cut saw comes with a blade, and it's going to last you about 10 times longer than one of these abrasive discs. So in my opinion, in the long run, it's cheaper to run the cold cut saw, and that's just my opinion. Look, I'm just talking about this saw. Evolution actually has cheaper saws than this one, but I'm only doing a comparison with this saw versus this saw. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Okay, here's the thing. I recently got me a new saw. And when I was thinking about getting the new saw, I contacted Evolution and told them that I used it on a lot of my videos, to which they thought that was cool. So I had them on the hook. I snuck it on in there.
Got him! Got him!
And I was like, do you think you could give my subscribers a discount? And to my surprise, they did. They gave me a code where you can get 5% off of any of their saws. Now, all you have to do is go to Evolution's site, and when you're checking out, put K Robinson in as your promo code, and you'll get 5% off of whatever you buy. And that's pretty dang cool. I'm just saying. Anyway, I was talking about my new saw. The reason I bought a new saw is because I needed something more heavy duty. And the main reason I got a new saw is because it's a cold cut saw, but it's also a miter saw, which makes things easier. Here, let me explain. Now, the worst downside to either one of these saws, either one of them, is this part right here that holds the steel. And they both have the same thing. They are both set up the exact same way. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a good clamp, and this is not a deal breaker. I've used this thing for 5 years, like I said. But if you want to cut a piece of steel on the 45, you have to loosen these bolts up, this one and this one. You have to turn this thing. And then when you get it in there so you can do your angle cut, the metal's going off that way, and it's going off this way. See what I'm saying? I mean, it makes it a little bit more difficult to maneuver. That's all I'm saying. if you put something in those other ones, let's say you cut it 45 degrees, you're gonna have to move your material to 45 degrees to get it to cut it. This saw here is like a compound miter saw. It's not a compound miter saw, but it's like it. You can hit the button and you can move this thing to wherever you want. And that way, your material don't move, your base moves. And I like that a lot better. Let's see how good this thing cuts. Yeah, I believe this saw cuts faster and nicer than my old one did. See that right there? That's why they call it a cold cut saw. Because if you'd just cut this with an abrasive saw, you'd burn your finger off touching it. Okay, so I give you 5 reasons why the cold cut saw is better. But I'm not knocking abrasive saws. I actually have an abrasive saw, as you can see. If you like your abrasive saw, use your abrasive saw. I don't care. Honestly, the abrasive saw comes in handy if I'm cutting stuff like hardened steel, because hardened steel will dull your blade on your evolution. So there is a place for abrasive saws. They're just not as good as cold cut saws. That's all I'm saying. And don't put the wrong blade on your saw. That's the thing you should take away from this. Do not put the wrong blade on your saw. That's all I'm saying. Hey, if you like this video, then you're probably gonna like this video or this video. So go over there and check them out, because this video is over. It's over. Hey, you mind keeping